Welcome to this PowerPoint on Chapter 4 on listening and responding. This is an audio PowerPoint, and I'll go through key elements of the chapter. There will be a quiz at the end of this module that will highlight information from this PowerPoint, so you may want to take notes. Also, there'll be a discussion post. Okay, so first we're going to look at what's the difference between hearing and listening. Is there a difference? Well, as you know, there is a huge difference. A lot of times we think that hearing is listening. Hearing is passive and listening is active. Hearing, the definition, is the psychological process of decoding sounds. The psychological process of decoding sounds. So we hear a lot of things, but we're not actively listening to that particular sound. Listening, on the other hand, is very active, and it takes work to listen, especially when it's something you really don't want to listen to, something that you're not interested in, or a person you're not interested in. That's when you have to do double the work to listen to that particular person. Listening, the 5-step process, is selecting, attending, understanding, remembering, and responding. So what does that mean? Well, you can think of it as an acronym as SAUR, S-A-U-R-R. Well, are you going to think of that when you have to listen? Not necessarily, but if I can just break it down for you quickly, listening is you select and attend. So you select sounds and you attend to them in your mind. It's a split second. And then you understand. In other words, you put an understanding to that particular sound. The 12 o'clock whistle that goes off from the factory down the street. You mentally say, oh, it must be noon, and they're getting off for lunch at the factory. So whatever sound, the English language or whatever language you are speaking or listening to, you put an understanding to those words. Remember, we want to remember that information. So how do we do this? Well, we might come up with some type of mnemonic or some type of acronym, like I did with this selecting or defining active listening of SAUR. Maybe some type of mnemonic, some type of memory to help you remember. And then lastly, and most importantly, one of the most important aspects of listening is responding, that you give some kind of verbal feedback or nonverbal feedback to say that you have received the message, and most likely, hopefully, you will provide some type of feedback so that intended message is clear and understood. So yes, hearing, psychological process of decoding sounds, listening, very active, and it's a 5-step process. Not that you have to memorize this, but be aware that it is an active process. Listening problems. Oh, we all have listening problems. We know that it takes a lot of work to listen. It's a learned skill that we have to work on, more so for some folks, more so for not so much for others. Listening problems, people remember just 25% of what they heard after 2 days. Only remember 25%. So in 2 days, you will only remember 25% on the average of this information. Some problems that we see with listening include thoughts such as, well, I process the information a lot faster than what the person is speaking. Well, use that time. The solution for that is to use that extra time to maybe come up with a mnemonic to remember, to kind of summarize what the person has said. So you're in class and you're listening to a lecture, perhaps as the person is speaking, summarize those points again, and that would be active listening. There's just too much information. That's another problem students say. I just can't process it all. Well, you want to decide what you want to get from the speaker, and you want to focus in on that. Along with this is emotional listening. Emotion comes into play, and it kind of clouds our brain. So if you're very angry, think about the last time you had a conflict with your significant other. You're very angry, so that clouds your brain, and you don't listen as clearly as you should. Or you were in the doctor's office, and you received devastating news, or just news that you did not want to hear. Your mind is going very quickly, and you're not listening as effectively as you could be. So remember, if you are in those situations, record. Obviously, always ask the speaker if you could record or take notes. You get nervous listening to new information. Again, another time that you can perhaps record or take notes, but you know what? We don't always have our iPhones or a piece of paper, so maybe perhaps you would want to clarify with the speaker and just repeat what is being said. And then lastly, you may say you're easily distracted. Well, if you are easily distracted, there's a lot of external noise coming in. Think about how you could focus in on the key points. If you're the speaker and you know you're speaking to a person who is easily distracted, perhaps what you want to do is change locations so there's no distractions, there's no external noise. That way you're successful when you are speaking. So these are just a very few problems. There's many problems. You'll see in your discussion post that I listed, I've given you some other examples. But let's look for solutions for effective listening. How can you be a better listener? Do you find that you don't listen well with one particular person or with a group or in a situation? So it's easy to remember to stop, look, and listen. Stop, look, and listen, and respond. And this will help you become more of an effective listener. So let's look at each of these areas. Stop. Okay, so you are in a situation and you need to listen. Turn off competing messages. Turn off competing messages. Now, there's a couple ways you can do this. If you have a lot of internal noise, right, you're thinking about a lot of things, you're daydreaming. You want to stop and say, okay, I need to focus and think about what this person is saying to me. Secondly, you may want to practice social decentering. And that's when you step away from your own thoughts. Okay, again, you step away from your own thoughts. But what you're doing now is attempting to experience the feelings of the other person. Social decentering. Other strategies so that you can be a better listener or to stop and to listen in a good position is to prepare physically. Think about eye contact you're making. Think about your body language. Are your arms closed? Are you leaning forward, listening to the person? Set a scene for attentive listening. In other words, if you are going to a meeting or you are meeting someone to listen, think about how you will non-verbally communicate that you are listening, and this will help you become a better listener as well. Arrive to meetings early, and what this does is help you prepare to set up so that you are in a good seat, right? You're in a good position. You may bring a piece of paper, a pencil, whatever it is, to help you listen and communicate more effectively at the meeting. Look. Stop, look, listen with your eyes. Implicit messages, and I underlined two words here. Nonverbal messages convey the feelings and attitudes about the content conveyed in a speech, in any type of speech. So think about someone's eyes, their voice, their nonverbal messages. They convey more than the actual content or the words within the speech. It's your job as a listener to pick up on these cues, to pick up on this person's, let's say, their eyes, or their facial expressions, or the tone of their voice of what they mean. We understand between 60 and 90% of information non-verbally, more so than spoken word. So it's real important to listen with your eyes. Interpret nonverbal messages as well. Again, body language, eyes, liking cues. Is the person leaning forward? Are they providing an interest? Interest cues. Is the voice vibrant? Do they have an excited facial expression? Are they excited to be speaking to you? Then you can be sure that you're providing those interest cues. Interest cues, and you can read them of the speaker. I'm sorry, someone just came in my office here. Okay, status cues. Okay, status cues. A person with higher status has more of a relaxed body posture and less direct body orientation. What they're saying here is that, for instance, if you were going into the doctor's office, let's use that as an example again, usually a person with a higher status will be more relaxed, have less direct body orientation compared to the other person who has lower status in the situation, where they might be a little more tense in the lower status. Not as relaxed as those in the higher status. So you listen and you look with those particular cues. Also, what you're listening for are both major ideas of facts and details in a particular message. So, for instance, if you were a customer service rep and someone was coming in with a complaint, they're unhappy with the yogurt they just bought, and they are irate and upset, and you are listening for the details and the facts. Okay, when did she buy it? What happened? Not necessarily to the relational major idea, the relational listening. Okay, this person's pretty upset. I need to validate the fact that she's upset, that she bought yogurt that was not good and it's sour. And then also listen to the details and facts. Sometimes as a listener, we listen more to just details and facts and forget about the relational listening. Or sometimes we are just so involved with the relational listening. Wow, this person's really upset. I need to calm them down. I need to validate them, that we forget about the details and facts. So obviously the best choice here is to link the details with the main ideas. You want to create a meaning from this message. Okay, so this message, this person speaking to you, you're looking at their nonverbal cues, you're listening to their verbal message, you're thinking about their implicit message. In other words, how do they feel? Are they angry? Are they sad? And then you want to mentally summarize these details and attach it to main ideas of what the listening situation is. So you link all this together. If you're a good listener, as you're listening, you link all of this together and you will definitely be successful in your listening. Also be aware, along with looking and listening, there's a term called a meta message, and that's when you attend to the person's unspoken message, the message within the message. So that's kind of like an implicit message where you're looking at the nonverbal cues and you're listening to those nonverbal cues more so than the written response. Okay, so we stopped. We're physically ready to listen. We're reading nonverbal cues. We're looking at the main ideas along with the facts and the details. We're trying to pull in the implicit message. In other words, we're being very empathetic. Now we need to respond. Have you ever spoken to someone and they don't respond? They don't respond verbally or non-verbally. We don't know if they received your message. You don't know if you've been successful with your intended message, and there's a communication breakdown. So we want to be sure that we want to provide a verbal response, obviously, and that could just be a simple It depends on what type of listening situation you're in. If someone's explaining or details or feelings, you just want to kind of keep it open with open-ended questions. If the person wants feedback, you want to provide good feedback to the particular speaker. Your book on page 43, and I do want to mention that this information is from your textbook. You'll see that in the area of responding verbally, I like this, about situations, you want to communicate a message at the speaker to let the speaker know that you understand the message. Okay, so for instance, you would say, I understand, I see what you're saying. Let the speaker know that you need clarification. I'm confused. Can you give me another example or tell me more? Okay, this is good listening situations responses. Let the speaker know that you're interested and you need more information. I find what you're saying fascinating. Do you mind, going into more detail? Communicate messages that let the speaker know that you